Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my live review stream of the Fallout TV show. The whole first hour was me summarizing the show and its major plot points. Now, this is going to become different, interactive. Now it's about opinion. It's not just about recapping or what happened. Now it's about everyone's thoughts, including mine. So I'm going to actually start interacting with my audience now. Dark Maggot says, great show. I only watched up to episode 4 so far. I'm loving it. I had to mute the stream for the end. Yeah, you didn't want to be spoiled, obviously, on the end. And man, but Dark Maggot, just so you know, we are going to be talking big plot spoilers here. We are. I know people right now are going to be talking about the end of the show and stuff. All right? So definitely you might want to take off. You don't want to be spoiled tonight. Trust me. Pistol just did a super chat and says, I need season 2. I can't believe the next season is going to be going to New Vegas, and it's going to give it a canon ending. Oh my God, the ghoul is the Vault Boy. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the cool things in the show. They finally explained the origins of the Vault Boy. That Vault Boy actually was the ghoul when he was human as an actor doing a PR campaign for Vault Tech, and he was the one who came up with the thumbs up pose to begin with. Cool. Mateo the God says, do you think we will see the Legion or maybe even more NCR? So, Caesar's Legion. Here's the thing. If this is to be canon, and first of all, we should address the elephant in the room. I'd like to answer Mateo, but let's address the elephant in the room. Todd Howard came out in November and said the entire show is canon to Fallout lore. He did it again. They just interviewed him again, like the other day, and he said it again. He says, oh, I painstakingly worked with the crew so that it's 100% canon to Fallout lore. Todd Howard is a dirty liar, and we all know this. Everything that comes out of his life, everything that comes out of his mouth is a half-truth, right? He said a million things about Starfield that weren't true. When you finally play the game, you're like, wow, what a bunch of lies, right? That's who he is. He's the PR guy, the face of Bethesda. He's not to be believed, all right? Just in the first episode of the show, the ghoul doesn't talk like other ghouls. None of the ghouls talk like other ghouls anymore. That's a lore change. All the ghouls need chemicals to survive. That's a lore change. You already changed 2 pieces of lore. That's not canon with the games. You lied, Todd. You see? What I think is, here's what's going to happen, in my opinion, and you can disagree, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, okay? This show's going to take off. Guess why? Because there's no Fallout right now. We've got no Fallout game that's come out anytime recently. Fallout 76 is the most recent one, and that's an online live service game. The last offline story-based Fallout game is 9 years old. We have no Fallout content to consume, just old stuff. So what's going to happen is this show is now the new consumable canon of Fallout. And I think what's going to happen is likely Season 1, Season 2, Season 3 are all going to happen before another game comes out. But these seasons are going to be what everyone knows. So here's what's going to happen. They're just going to change the lore in the games. And everyone's going to be like, oh, no, why'd you do that? But that's what they're going to end up doing because people are going to love this show so much because they do right now. People are consuming this show and absolutely devouring it and loving it. They're going to love this so much. This is going to become the new canon. You know, I think this will override all of the games previous. So from now on, you're not going to hear ghouls that talk like this because now you want to get your voice. No, it's going to be normal talking from now on. And the ghouls are going to need their chems to stay alive. And you saw what I'm saying? So to answer Mateo the God's question, do you think we'll see the Legion? I don't know. Because the thing is, if the ending of the series is to be true, and Hank is heading towards New Vegas because apparently Mr. House is in cahoots with Vault Tech and he needs to go see his boss, essentially, because everything went wrong, that means Mr. House is in control. Mr. House won. That means the Legion is at the very least, all right, at the very least, subdued. Because remember, the whole Legion's plot was to take over New Vegas, to beat the NCR and all of that. That didn't happen. If New Vegas is still intact and Hank is heading towards New Vegas because Mr. House is still in charge, Legion lost. So I would almost think that maybe there'll be references or maybe, again, remnants of the Legion, but I don't think we're going to see the Legion in the full capacity that they were regarded or represented in the New Vegas game. I don't think so. As for more NCR, that's actually 100% one of the pieces of contention that everyone is saying is a problem because they're saying the NCR is not just Shady Sands. And in fact, they show a sign in the show that says Shady Sands population 35,000, right? But the thing is, apparently the NCR in the actual lore of Fallout is much bigger than 35,000 people. Maybe that's just their main settlement, but they should have had all different kinds of towns, cities, encampments all over the West Coast. So just because they blew up Shady Sands doesn't necessarily mean that's the end of the NCR. But season 1 kind of makes you feel that way. The big finale fight with Moldaver and the leftover NCR people feels to me like that's it. Like that's the end of the NCR. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. Maybe that's a trick. Maybe that's a bait and switch, and all of a sudden the NCR will show up in a heavier capacity later on in the show. I would say right now, anything's possible. Seriously, because we won't know until that first episode of season 2 airs, and we see Hank running into Mr. House and see what happens there. That's when we're gonna figure everything out. We don't know what the canon ending of New Vegas was, so that's what's gonna confuse everybody. Okay. Dark Magus is most likely House defeated both the NCR and the Legion. Well, if you do the Mr. House ending, that is correct. In the Mr. House ending of New Vegas, he uses his upgraded, what are they called, Armatrons? His upgraded robot army. You upgrade them during the course of the game. You get the coin, you put it in the bunker, it upgrades the robot army, and then he uses his robot army to subdue both sides. Both the NCR and the Legion lay down their weapons, and Mr. House wins. He's in control of all of New Vegas, and essentially you work for him now. So you're kind of in there in that organization as the courier, but that's his ending. Securitrons, that's what they're called, Securitrons. Thank you, Pistol. So if that is the canon ending, yeah, maybe the Legion and NCR still were allowed to exist, but they were all under the control of Mr. House. Mateo the God says it would be cool if they make some companions actual characters. What about Raul or Lily? Raul could be played by Danny Trejo. That's who he is in the games. They could do that for sure. Lily, yeah. See, that was one thing too. There's no super mutants in season 1 of Fallout. And I think, honestly, it's budget concerns. For example, there is one giant mutant monster in season 1 of Fallout. It's a huge mutated lizard amphibian creature. And you saw it in the trailer. You saw it everywhere. I'm going to be honest. Now, I'm going to tell you what I like and don't like about the show. I'm not into CGI a lot. I'm not a CGI guy. I think it could be done tastefully when done as more of a supplemental thing. I hate movies that are all CGI most of the time. I think the Fallout TV series does a great job of balancing practical effects with CGI. There is CGI, but it's not like over the top, blown up in your face constantly. Okay? That monster sucked. Like, I don't like that monster. Okay? That's the one mutated monster in the whole show. And every time that it was on screen, I thought it looked stupid. You know, it was trying to eat Lily, excuse me. It was trying to eat Lucy. And I never believed it was really there. I was like, oh. And even later, in another vault, they show one of them floating in the background and like gelling. Oh, they brought that fucking thing back. I hate this. I just don't like that creature. You know, I liked everything else in the show. That creature is like my pet peeve about the show, that they just had to have a big CGI monster mutant, and it didn't look good. You know, it looks good in the video game. It just doesn't look good in the show. So here's the thing. Super mutants. It's a critical part of Fallout lore. Not present whatsoever in the show. You do hear a couple allusions to them. A couple people actually say super mutant and talk about super mutants in the dialogue, but never is there a real super mutant in the show. All right? So would I like to see super mutants in season 2? Sure. But if they're going the New Vegas route, not a lot of super mutants in New Vegas either, right? Like the super mutants, if you remember, in New Vegas, they're primarily focused on the super mutants that are using the stealth boys to go invisible, and then they lose their minds, right? Like if they have that drug or whatever that makes them go completely invisible, but then they're like losing their minds, they're going nuts. I forget what they're called, the Nightkin, right? So if that's the case, you know, maybe that'll be part of it, but there really isn't that much super mutant presence in New Vegas. So perhaps there could be some super mutants, but I don't think they would be as prominent as if this was Fallout 3's plot. My God, they're everywhere, right? And so there's even the super ginormous super mutants, right? The huge ones. So, but no, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Pistol says it's confirmed season 2 of Fallout has been offered a $25 million tax credit to film in California. The budget is going to be bigger in season 2. Cool. Very cool. Mateo the God says it would be cool if they add the courier as a character they can also mean Benny in a whole new plot. They can meet Benny in a whole new plot line. Well, Benny should be dead no matter what. No matter what, it doesn't matter what choices you make. Doesn't the courier kill Benny or Benny get killed? Is there a situation where Benny survives in New Vegas? I don't remember that. He might. There might be a way to keep him alive, but I think it's really hard to do. Like either you kill him or the Legion kills him. Someone kills him at some point, right? See, here's the thing. I don't know how the courier would fit into the plot of the show. The courier is the protagonist of New Vegas, the game. But even the thought of the courier is kind of weird. Oh, so Mr. House needed to get this control chip to New Vegas, right? And instead of like putting this control chip into a regiment of armed troops or robots, he just hires a ton of couriers, each having a fake coin and one of them having the real one, all trying to go to New Vegas at once, thinking that that's somehow going to be better. I don't know if that even makes sense. Does that even make sense? If you really want something to get there, you just hire a whole bunch of fucking people to defend it. You don't give it to a bunch of random people and have them transport it, right? And I think really the courier was just a plot device, honestly. That's why he never gets a real name. You make the name, but it doesn't matter. You're not voiced. You're the silent protagonist, right? I just think that that was the way to get you to be the main character of the game. I don't know if the courier is enough of an enthralling character that I want to see them in season 2 of the Fallout show. They were a means to an end. And now that the game is over, I don't know if I care about the courier ever again. It's kind of like, so the courier walks away, bye-bye, you know, into the wasteland, and that's it. Or, you know, if the courier is following the main plot of New Vegas and the House ending, then that means the courier still works for House. You know, he'd maybe be one of the head-ups there, working for House, I think. But I don't know. I just don't know if that would work. Clay JT says you can kill Mr. House and be in control of them of yourself with Yes Man. That is correct. But there's 2 problems with that. Number 1, you don't know if Yes Man actually is trustworthy. The game ends on a kind of a big uncertainty. Will Yes Man do everything you say forever? Or are these machines actually becoming sentient? It almost feels like they are, but the game just ends and you don't really know what actually happens. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, if Hank, at the end of the season 1 of the show, is heading to New Vegas, do you think he'd just be heading to New Vegas and not knowing who's in charge? No, it's obvious, especially from that cutscene flashback where Mr. House was there talking with the executives of Vault-Tec. They made an agreement. House runs New Vegas. The backup plan was if the Vault plan isn't working or something goes awry, they'd go and they work with Mr. House. Now, they all are well aware of what's going on the surface. They have all this information. Hell, they bombed Shady Sands when NCR was getting power. So it's not like they're in the dark. They know everything that's going on the surface through surveillance. So obviously, if New Vegas has been overrun by yes men robots, they're not going to go there. Why would Hank go there, right? So it sounds to me 100% that this is the Mr. House is the canon ending of New Vegas, and that's why Hank would be going to New Vegas to run into Mr. House and tell him everything's gone awry at the Vault. You know, the Vault's still intact, but everything's gone awry. Now the Brotherhood have cold fusion, and NCR's gone, but now we got bigger problems. What do we do, right? That's what I think is happening now. Well, of course they could change the courier's mission or story. Of course they can, but I mean, the whole point is that's again, that's supposed to be in the back, right? In the past, right? Supposedly all the events of New Vegas have already happened 20 years before the events of the show. So that's all set in stone. You know, how are you going to, unless they completely rewrite who the courier was or whatever, right? So, anyway, what's funny, when you're talking about this whole thing, you know, Todd Howard is basically saying that this show is canon now. And this is causing all these problems. All these lore hounds on the internet are going crazy talking about the discrepancies between the show and the games. And they're going nuts. No, this is an obvious lore error. It's a lore error. It's not a lore error. Todd Howard is your lore error because he's an idiot. There's no way that this show could be completely canon with the games because it changes things about the games right as the show starts. So this will be its own Fallout universe. Whether the games decide to change to become in line with this universe or these 2 universes will actually stay different, I wonder. That's a good question. But I find it hilarious because I really feel like these YouTubers are freaking out because this is their livelihood. For how many years they've just been making Fallout lore videos. And now, if you're telling me there's a new Fallout universe that erases all their lore and makes it irrelevant, it means everything they've done on the internet is worthless overnight because of the show. So, lore error, not lore error. It's a show and a game are not the same. Doesn't matter what Todd Howard says. We know that he's a PR man, a front man who lies, you know? So we don't need to believe anything he says. I do feel like the show is well written and great. I like the lore of the show. I wouldn't mind if the lore of the show continued for 3, 4, 5 seasons. And then if they make a new Fallout game 10 years in the future, if they make it in line with the lore of the show and everything changes and it erases all the events of the previous games, so be it, right? Because really it's going to be popularity that determines it. It's not going to be a bunch of people on YouTube screaming about their lore videos. It's going to be who cares most in mainstream media about this show or about the games. And that's going to determine the choices they make, you know? So, oh my God, it couldn't have possibly happened like that because didn't you know that in 2271, there was a thing that happened with the NCR and the bombs couldn't have dropped? Shut up. No one cares. Really, no one cares. The show's great and the lore of the show is excellent. And if it changes some of the lore of the games, that's fine. Oh, well, maybe you should have done something different than make lore videos for the last 5 years, right? I don't know what else to say. It's just hilarious to see these people freaking out on Twitter and shit about it. It's like, oh my God, the lore. Like, shut the fuck up. Let's see here. Which faction would I have gone with in the show? You mean in the TV, in the show now? I mean, what factions are there? There's the Brotherhood. There's the remnants of the MCR. And I guess there's Vault Tech. Would those be the 3 remnants or the 3 factions? I mean, Vault Tech's just fucking pure evil. It's just a bunch of rich people trying to control the planet. It's really vile. So I would say definitely of anyone, that would be the one group I would definitely not go with. The NCR remnants run by Moldaver, as cutthroat as their methods are, they are well-intentioned. They want to free the wasteland. They want to give power to the people. A lot of people say they're communists, right? Well, are they? I don't know. I really don't know if that's what they are. They're just kind of anti-corpo, right? Anti-establishment, anti these companies controlling everything. But again, their methods are crude. They break into the vault. They just start slaughtering people right at the beginning of the show, right from the get-go. So is that any better? You know, you're murdering people who are innocent. It's not their fault that they're in that vault. They didn't put themselves there. Some of them were born in that vault, right? So, I don't know. What was the third one I said? I said it was NCR, Vault Tech, or, the Brotherhood. Man, the Brotherhood, again, they're kind of like, sometimes you want to think that they're really cool and they have morals and everything. And then it's kind of exposed in this show that they are just kind of a joke, you know? Like you got the Michael Rappaport Knight, who he takes his helmet off, and the first thing he says is, man, I hate this. They always send us out to find technology that's bullshit. One time I had to go off on a mission just to find a toaster oven, and this is so stupid, and I hate all of it. It's like, so they're just normal people, and they act like they're all high and mighty, and they know better, and they really don't, right? You get these scribes who are like these hoarders of history and technology, and they keep it all for themselves, and they're not trying to help anyone. So what's better? Vault Tech, who has all the technology, wants to control the planet and keeps it all for themselves and literally kills and destroys everything around them to stay in power. All right? The Brotherhood, who think, well, we need to hoard all the technology for ourselves. No one should have it, so we'll just hoard it all for ourselves and kill anyone that gets in our way. Or the NCR, who just want to get all the technology and give it all out to everyone willy-nilly, but they also are brutal in their method. Like, there's literally, I think that's the point of Fallout. There isn't a faction that's good. They all see different perspectives on survival, but none of them are actually good. There is no black and white to it. There's no, this is the villain, this is the hero. I mean, in New Vegas, it was kind of the same. Caesar's Legion, NCR, or Mr. House. Pick your poison. Because no matter what, the outcome ain't great. Militaristic with NCR, brutal, just chaotic murder with Caesar's Legion, or Mr. House corporate takeover, right? It's like, is there anything good there? I don't know if there's a single good choice in any of these factions. I think that's one of the coolest things about the Fallout universe, right? Pistols, I wish the Enclave was fleshed out more. That is a huge plot hole in the show. In the games, the Enclave doesn't exist anymore. It's clearly explained in Fallout New Vegas. The Enclave is done. And you're actually trying to pull the remnants of the Enclave out of retirement to help you in the big fight at Hoover Dam. But they're retired. There is no Enclave to fight anymore. So why on earth was there Enclave doing this research at the beginning of the show? How did they discover cold fusion? You know, they were doing all this as like, who is this Enclave? We thought that they were gone. So this is a new lore thing that's, you know, they're being reintroduced, right? How would I survive the wasteland? What would I be my plan? I don't think there is a plan to survive the wasteland with current people. I don't think people would. We all live too much sheltered lives. We're too used to our modern conveniences. Most of us aren't even physically fit to survive out in the wasteland. We'd all die. Most of us, anyway. It would be a freak luck. So there you go. All right. So I've said my piece. You know that I like the show. You know that I like the new lore. I hope that the new lore actually becomes canon, and I hope that they actually change the games to be in line with the games. I'll just say that right now. I hope the games actually change and become part of the show. I would love that. 100%. Okay? But what did you guys think of the show? What did you particularly like stuff? Did you hate stuff? Right? What do you think about the lore? Are there things that you did not like about the lore changes? I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts, okay? Okay. Clay JT, we already said that's one of the biggest plot holes that it's not explained yet. Is how did Moldaver live in the past? She was the person who was anti-Vault-Tec. She was trying to rally up support to stop Vault-Tec in the past, and now she's still alive in the present. Never explained. I mean, you can assume she also was cryogenically frozen like the Vault-Tec executives, but how and where? Because she wasn't in the vault with them. So where did she come from? That we don't know yet. Yes, if I survived the bombs, I would still broadcast playthroughs over Pip-Boy Radio. Thank you, Michael Kane. Cybers TV says, to be fair, every game adds new lore. I feel like whether we're talking game or show, with every release, something is changed or added. I mean, that is true. For example, I have heard that there's been lore changes for one of the examples here. This is a minor example someone told me. I guess in Fallout 2, Jet was introduced to the game, and it was supposed to be the invention of a teenager trying to make a drug on the cheap, and he made it out of like dung, like fecal matter. So Jet is actually a drug made out of poop, okay? But then apparently in Fallout 3, that's all changed, and it's supposed to be like a professional pharmaceutical drug or something like that, so the lore has changed. That's a minor tweak. That's not like a major lore change. That's like a minor little tweak. But definitely some of the changes in the show are going to be giant changes, right? Pistol says, interesting how the show steered from Fallout 4 references or factions, Minutemen, Institute, and Synths Railroad. Yeah, but that's all East Coast. The whole idea of Fallout is that, you know, the whole country, the infrastructure's been destroyed. I mean, what are the chances that people in California would even know about that shit back on the East Coast? Very little, right? You know, Vault-Tec maybe knows all about it. As we said, Vault-Tec would know that as other factions and groups gain power, they want to keep them subjugated. That's why they nuked Shady Sands and killed all the NCR. Maybe they're either in, like, for example, the Institute. Maybe Vault-Tec's in cahoots with the Institute. You just don't know that yet. That's a plot point. Or maybe they're keeping tabs on the Institute, and one day if they get too much power, they're the next to go, right? So there you go. Oh, let's see here. Lady Charisma says the main Enclave was destroyed in 2. The Enclave you see in the later games are splintered remnants, if I recall my lore knowledge, so I might be wrong on that. See, I never played 1 or 2. I only played 3 forward, and in 3, if you remember, the Enclave are a major presence at odds with the Brotherhood. You infiltrate the Enclave, right? You fight them directly, and then you get to see who's the president of the Enclave. It's a freaking AI. It's a freaking AI. And you gotta either team up with him, or you go against him, or you can even use charisma checks to kind of mind screw him, and then he ends up killing himself and blowing up all the Enclave himself. But the Enclave have a pretty bad end, right? They get pretty much destroyed at the end of Fallout 3. They lose. So where this West Coast remnant group of Enclave are coming from, it's a new plot point. No, Super Chuffer says, wasn't the ending a cityscape of Seattle? I thought the Space Needle. That is the fake Space Needle that is in New Vegas. New Vegas has a tower that looks like the Space Needle. If you remember, real life Las Vegas has a fake Eiffel Tower, a fake Space Needle, like all the fake stuff. It's like all the landmarks recreated. They also have a Sphinx and a freaking pyramid too. So that's what that's they're showing you the fake Space Needle. It's part of the New Vegas skyline. Felix the Maid, we're not talking about things except Fallout. You're asking me a question. It's nothing about anime. We're not talking about anime tonight. This is the Fallout live review show. Thanks. Some people don't get it. Wrong stream, bro. Okay. So again, I'm asking, like, what did you guys like? What didn't you like? What do you think about the lore changes? Do you have problems with any of the lore of the show? A lot of people on the internet seem to be very heated and adamant about this show that it's either really good or it's really, really bad. Right? It's one or the other. They're kind of polarized. I think most people are leaning towards good, but I've seen a lot of people get pretty upset about the changes, and I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are. Pistol says the Fallout 4 Next Gen update is confirmed to add an Enclave quest. I thought it wasn't adding any content at all. I thought it was just adding graphical tweaks and improvements. I didn't hear that it's adding any of that kind of stuff, honestly. So I don't know if I believe that. I haven't seen that yet. Excuse me. Did my wife Kat like the show? She absolutely positively loved it. Now keep in mind, last year we watched Last of Us together and it started off strong and we thought the ending was atrociously bad with the changes they made and it just wasn't nearly as good as the game. In this case, we feel like the show is as good as the Fallout games, if not on pace. If season 2 ends up being New Vegas, I think that's super amazing. That's what people want, right? We want the continuation of these games from 10, 15 years ago that Bethesda refuses to make new games of. Instead, make Starfield that no one really wanted and it sucks. And then tell us, oh, well, Elder Scrolls is next, but we don't even have any gameplay to show you. Well, what are you doing? What? No, really, what are you doing? What is anyone at your game studio doing? Because it seems to me like you're completely inefficient at making games now. They released a super duper great show. Everyone wants to do Fallout content, and they're so incompetent they don't have the ability to make any new Fallout content, right? So, I guess we'll have to see. No, I am being told it is true. Fallout 4 will be adding new DLC. Oh, crap. Now I kind of want to play it. We were talking about that this morning. If I should do another run of it, because I've only played it once ever. Clay JT says, shouldn't the ghoul have known the weak spot of the power armor when he was fighting Max in the first episode? Yes, except the problem there is that unlike at the end of the show, in the final episode, the ghoul is fighting the Brotherhood of Steel as they're trying to take over the NCR base at Griffith Observatory. He says, oh, there's a weak point. Watch this. And he shoots it. He couldn't do that to Max because Maximus just shows up and starts fighting him. Like whenever he flies in, and then immediately he goes right for him, and they start fighting. It's like the knight in shining armor showing up for the rescue. So it wasn't like the ghoul had the drop on them, or had the drop on Maximus, and was able to easily just pick off this weak point like he was. He got the drop on the Brotherhood. Remember, he surprised them. They didn't even know he was there. They turned around, and all of a sudden, surprise, boom, shoots him right in the weak spot. So that's the thing. He was already in motion. They were already fighting. I'm sure if Maximus was just standing around like an idiot doing nothing and not fighting him, then it would have been easy to shoot the weak spot. But, I think that was the point, is that it was active combat. That's why it was such a cool scene. Super Chuffer says, I thought it was good. Each main character presents a different playstyle. Lucy is like a goodie. The ghoul is when you do the second run as a baddie. It was cool that Lucy starts off. Each character has such an awesome character arc. Lucy starts off as so innocent goody two-shoes, right? Like okie dokie. And then by the end of the show, she's just so changed, right? But after she finds out the truth about her father, and she just completely changes his character, and she's like, that's it, I'm going with the ghoul. I mean, of all people to team up, she's teaming up with the guy who was trying to kill her and torturing her earlier in the show, and she's teaming up with the ghoul now to go after her father, right? She's a completely changed person. What a character arc. Let's see here. Lady Christmas says, the change about Vault-Tec starting the war fits into the lore. I could totally see them doing that in the games. Me too. Felix the Main says, I think all three main characters show no character progression. They're the same from episode 1 to 8. Then you didn't watch the show. Yeah, you totally didn't even watch the show at all. Like, how can you even say that? At the beginning of the show, Maximus is like the biggest fan of the Brotherhood. He wants to be a knight. That's all he wants, right? Halfway through the show, he decides he doesn't even want to be with the Brotherhood anymore. He wants to move into a vault. By the end of the show, in a cruel twist of fate, he's forced back into the Brotherhood against his will, and now he becomes the hero of the Brotherhood that he wanted at the beginning of the show, but he's changed so much, he hates himself, and we're all wondering where this is going to lead in season 2, right? Like, what a crazy twist. That's huge character development. Cypress TV says, this is the quote on what's being added in the Fallout 4 stability improvements, and up to 60 frames per second along with new content, such as the Enclave Remnants quest line, makeshift weapon pack. Wow. So there is a new Enclave quest line in the Fallout 4. Huh. Bob from Pennsylvania did a super chat saying, I can't chat. Canon takes less than stellar, bro. I don't even know what that means. Yeah, you had to subscribe to the channel a day earlier. I announced this on all of my content that you needed to subscribe to the channel to talk tonight. So, Bob, I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. I would love to hear your take on it. Like, what is your take on the lore and the changes? Have a good night, Dentronics. I received a $2 tip from an anonymous tipper. I don't think you get the full picture of how evil the Enclave is unless you play Fallout 2. Okay, I did not. They had actual human leadership. Their goal was to genocide all non-Enclave humans via a plague. Wow. Would you be interested in doing or reacting to playthroughs of 1 and 2 in the future? There's still ways to play them on modern PCs. The problem is, I don't think anyone really wants to see me play this massively outdated games. I mean, they're top-down point-and-click games, right? It's a shame, because you know me. I do love classic games. That's a series I would love to hear the older lore, but I don't think that it would work as a playthrough, especially if they're, games that are going to take a while. I don't think so, It's kind of like maybe if I was around in the 90s playing that kind of stuff, but yeah. Do I think that they did a good job of creating ambiguity in the characters? Well, yeah. Like the ghoul, man. The ghoul, to me, is such a cool and enigmatic character. And then you get his backstory and you figure out who he really is. And he's really well written. Like, I mean, but the thing is, he's not a hero. He's 100% an anti-hero. He's a villain who just happens to be opposed to the other villains. So he ends up being good through his actions, even though he does some heinous things during the show, According to the lore, the Enclave is still hiding in an undisclosed location on the East Coast. Of course, they wouldn't be relevant on the West Coast. But then again, that might be what people are wondering. Why was there a West Coast Enclave that this scientist escaped from? Who is that? Like, has it ever existed? Remember, in New Vegas, they were trying to get the remnants of the Enclave together to help at Hoover Dam, and it was so hard to get them together. They were few and far between. Why all of a sudden is now there an Enclave presence out on the West Coast? It's so weird. Wouldn't they have known about that in New Vegas? Bethesda reset the West Coast. Todd has contempt for Obsidian Fallout. He wants to wank off the Brotherhood of Steel all the time. Well, I don't know about that, Mr. Video. I don't feel like this reset the West Coast. They're claiming that Shady Sands is destroyed very shortly after the events of New Vegas. But it is still supposedly canon. Supposedly. Do I think a silent protagonist would have worked in the show? No. You need people to talk on shows. Being a silent protagonist would be incredibly boring. Lady Christmas is about the Fallout 4 run. Maybe wait a bit before starting. It's going to break the mods to the game. There's quality of life updates that would improve the gameplay. I don't know. I feel like if I don't play it during the update, no one's going to care. Like, if I wait a month, 2 months to play it, everyone's going to be like, what are you playing it for now? The Fallout show's old, right? I feel like right now is when everyone's hype, and everyone's going to probably start playing Fallout 4 when the update comes. If I wait for mods, I mean, what's the point then? Good evening, Orange. Exactly, I agree there. John Bono says, the Brotherhood of Steel come off as pretty weird and culty in the show, just like the West Coast Brotherhood has always been. Yeah, it's totally. They're like a cult, that you indoctrinated into their way of life, their hierarchy, right? It's almost like mind control to a point. You have to be all for the Brotherhood, right? I agree there. Yeah, at least according to the show, what they would lead you to believe, which is uncertain, it seems like the NCR is all but gone. Like, it seems like they're almost all dead, and that Moldaver group was the remnants of the NCR trying to survive. They're undercover. Like, you didn't know they were NCR at first, and they're just trying to survive. But what's weird again about that is, yeah, maybe Shady Sands, the capital was destroyed, 35,000 people, but they had outposts everywhere. So what happened? Did everything break down when Shady Sands got nuked? Like, literally the entire NCR just broke apart in chaotic fashion? Because they were a huge group. Even just in New Vegas, the game, there's tons of NCR outposts all throughout the map that are all separate camps and stuff, and they wouldn't have been affected by that. They could have still kept operating. I don't know if you remember the Brotherhood of Steel outcasts in Fallout 3. Do you think they should bring them into the show? You're right, I don't remember that. I guess what you're saying is there's groups of the Brotherhood that were, excommunicated or whatever. I definitely don't remember that. So, should they bring them into the show? I mean, maybe. You don't know where they're going. All you know is it's going to be involving New Vegas in Season 2. That's the direction they're going, right? The Dead Sea? They got to the Dead Sea in Fallout 4? What? I don't know what you're talking about. Orange says Bethesda does this in their writing sometimes. They supposedly dropped an asteroid on Morrowind between Oblivion and Skyrim. It reminds me of that. So they just wiped out Morrowind in the lore and you never go back? Wow. Highest Darkness says the NCR was the biggest faction. They literally beat the Brotherhood just because they had the sheer numbers. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, once again, remember one of the big questions was, why did the Brotherhood have such a presence in the TV show? Because the Brotherhood were supposed to be mostly East Coast. And again, if you remember New Vegas, the Brotherhood were hiding out in underground bunkers. They weren't on the surface in any kind of a big capacity. Well, apparently, I guess because this nuke took out the NCR that Vault-Tec dropped on them, that's what allowed the Brotherhood to now step in and have a bigger foothold in the territory, right? AJT says, what year did the nuke happen? The board says 2277 was when Shady Sands was blown up, but New Vegas took place 4 years after that. I just read an article. Todd Howard literally says the nuke dropped right after the events of New Vegas. He says that, word for word. They were interviewing him, and he says the nuke that destroyed Shady Sands dropped nearly right after the events of New Vegas. So maybe if it does say 2277 on a board in the background of the show, it may have been an error that they didn't mean to use that date and they got their dates wrong. But that's what Todd Howard said. Those are the words right out of his mouth. He was interviewed, and that's what he said. Cybers TV says, is it possible it's possible when Shady Sands got nuked, some of the NCR went undercover like Jedi when the Jedi Temple fell. No, that's what happened. That's what Moldaver's group is, right? Like, that's what we're led to believe, that Moldaver's group is undercover. It's a group of ragtag raiders and things that have kind of joined up with the remnants of the NCR, and they're the people for the people, anti-Vault, anti-Brotherhood for the people, right? I think that's what we're supposed to believe. If you didn't play Fallout 4 yet, would the show spoil the game? Absolutely not. Fallout 4 takes place on the other coast, and it's completely like all the events of Fallout 4, the factions and things have pretty much nothing to do with the plot of this show at all. So, no, it would not spoil the events of Fallout 4 in any way. You could still play Fallout 4 if you watch the show. Super Chuffer says, I think we can make lore fit well if we give some leeway for modern retelling, and we embrace this. It was a love letter to the game, so much was right. I agree. Again, I feel like the people who made this game love Fallout, have an affinity for the universe, and didn't want to fuck it up, right? They didn't want to just ruin it like the Fallout, that Halo show is such dog shit. It may be an okay show on its own, right? But it just don't call it Halo then. If you're going to take the source material and throw it on the ground and stomp it into fucking paste and then like fucking Play-Doh form it into something new for your own use, then don't call it Halo. Do something different. They didn't have to call it Halo, but no one would have watched their fucking shitty show if they didn't call it Halo. In this case, you can tell they had a love and affinity for the source material and they wanted to do something awesome that people would embrace as a mainstream show, but would also really please the fans of the franchise. They did a great job of doing that. Does Caesar die in the house ending in New Vegas? Yes. Caesar dies in the house and Yes Man and NCR endings. In all three, you kill him, I believe. 2277 is 200 years exactly after the bombs dropped in the Great War, so it could be an error. Yeah, if really the writing on a freaking chalkboard is the one piece of contention in the series for a lore error, then I'm just going to say they chalk it up to they wrote the wrong date on the fucking chalkboard. If everything else makes sense, except the one date on a chalkboard, then fuck the chalkboard, right? Just forget it. It's not a big deal. Play JT says the Brotherhood Elder says they take their orders from the highest clerks from the Commonwealth. The Brotherhood destroying the Institute must be canon. I guess I would have to replay Fallout 4 to refresh my memory on that. The Commonwealth is East Coast, right? Mr. Video says the nukes dropped on the ghoul and his daughter on a day he had custody. Makes me think China beat them to dropping the bomb. Why? Because the mother would want to be with the daughter? That doesn't make sense. When you say he had custody, they were still married. What are you talking about? At least, you know, it's that I didn't know. Are they separated? When did they explain that? In the show, I don't remember them saying that him and his wife separated. Maybe they did, and I didn't catch on to that. I mean, even the flashback scenes in the final episode are him discovering his wife was basically one of the people in charge of Vault-Tec who had the ideas to do these malicious things. Maybe they separated at that point. Carlos says NCR has like a 700K population. They beat both the Brotherhood and the Enclave into hiding in the West Coast. Their problem is since they have numbers, they fight multiple fronts and they can't hold everything. Do we really believe that if Shady Sands, which has a population of 35,000, was nuked, that would completely rout the entire NCR? Do you really believe that? If they're a giant militaristic group, right? And they have all these different outposts and groups, like, just because you nuked the main base, does that really mean that everything would end? Oh, Pistol says in the beginning episode at the birthday party, the guests asked each other why Coop, and that's the character of the ghoul. His name is Coop in the past before he becomes the ghoul. Why is he doing pony photo shoots? And they say alimony. Okay. And his daughter is with him that day. His daughter is with him at work that day. So yeah, okay, that's a plot point I missed. So he spied on his wife, who's one of these high execs at Vault-Tec. He found out that she was one of the most malicious people on the planet, literally planning to possibly nuke the planet to create their own society, right? Of how they wanted it. And maybe he was so taken aback by that, he says, I have to divorce you now. That's what it was. I'm the Juggernaut just did a super chat. He says, there's rumors Fallout 1 and 2 Remake will be the first time released on a gaming platform system. I mean, if they're remade for a modern audience with modern controls and stuff, I'm all for it. Me just playing the old PC versions on my mini PC probably would not work, and people probably wouldn't care too much about that, right? Excuse me. Now listen to this. I got $1 tip from an anonymous tipper. People in chat are misleading you about the Enclave on the West Coast. In Fallout 2, you got to go to San Francisco. The Enclave actually have a strong military presence there. They're basically scattered across the U.S., as well as offshore ships, subs, and satellites. They didn't all die at the end of Fallout 2, but it's likely one of those that they used to nuke Shady Sands that's the new lore with Bethesda is going with. I hear how Bethesda is changing the lore with this and the Fallout 4 update. Wow. So now people are even disagreeing about what we're talking about tonight. Well, again, I never played Fallout 1 and 2. I can't confirm or deny anything anyone is saying here tonight. Lady Charisma says nuking Shady Sands would be like nuking Washington, D.C. It would be messed up badly. The line of command would be destroyed. Ongoy Smacker, whatever that means, says, do you think Liberty Prime would be in the show? No. I don't think so. We're not, I mean, maybe seasons and seasons forward, right? But I don't think Liberty Prime is going to magically show up on the West Coast. Liberty Prime's on the East Coast. And it broke down anyway at the end of Fallout 3. They'd have to rebuild it. Where would the Fallout 4 where would the Fallout show rate on my best list of TV shows? The thing is, I'm not going to rate a show from the 2000s to a show from 2024. You know, that's not fair. What I will say is, definitely this is my favorite video game show I've ever seen. And this is probably one of my favorite shows of the last 5 years that I've watched, of anything I've even watched. And that includes shows like The Boys and Invincible and stuff like that. This is better than that, I feel. Like, it's that well written. It's that well acted. It's got good effects. It's got interesting plot development. It's a really good show. That final episode, again, makes you feel like you are at the end of a 40 to 80 hour RPG journey. And this is the culmination fight. It feels like the end of New Vegas, where everything happens at Hoover Dam in the big finale. That's what it feels like, that final episode. It's so well done. And you know, they did just good enough to wrap up enough plot threads so you're satisfied. Then they leave a few plot threads dangling on purpose to get you hungry for season 2. And then the final shot of seeing New Vegas out in the desert, you're like, oh my God, they did it. I can't believe they did it. You get goosebumps. You're like, they actually nailed it. Like, that's how you end a season 1, you know? Cypress TV says, I think we will see NCR remnants in New Vegas when season 2 starts. Am I missing something? What makes people feel we won't? I don't know. If you just watched the show and you had not played the games, the show makes it seem like the NCR has been completely wiped out. Like, that nuke that blew up Shady Sands, that was it. That just was the end of NCR, because there's no formal NCR presence. There's a few people who have NCR uniforms. There's the remnants of the MCR Moldova is commanding, but there's no formal MCR anywhere to be seen. And remember, this was their major place in the country, right here, this California region, and they're just gone. So it makes you feel like they're gone. But maybe it is a bait and switch and it's bullshit. Who knows? We don't know yet. Norm's character arc you're excited about, the younger brother, says Clay JT. So Norm is the brother of Lucy, who gets stuck in Vault 31 when he discovers the truth about everything. That basically the overseers are Vault Tech employees and they're all cryogenically frozen, and he goes into Vault 31, he finds them all frozen, but then the door closes and he's stuck in there. So season 2 will probably be more about his story, how he if he ever gets out, what happens in the vaults. Because remember, the big culmination was they were going to do a split of the population between Vault 32 and Vault 33. And that was like the next social experiment they were going to perform on them down there. But I think there'll be aliens. I mean, they could go that route. Although the Alien DLC is just a one-off DLC, the aliens are canon to the Fallout universe. It's just that they're never really involved in any of the major plot threads. It's more like a DLC what-if silly situation, right? Lady Charisma asks, with The Last of Us and now Fallout, things like the Mario and Sonic movie getting praised, do you think shows and movies based on video games will get a fair shake? I hope so. I want more like Fallout. I want less like The Last of Us, where the only good thing is because they copy-pasted from the games, and the things they changed, all right, are no good. Literally every change they made to The Last of Us TV show sucked. It was for the worse. Would have been better if it was just left to be the games. But because it was the games, you didn't have any sense of suspense, any sense of real risk, because it was shit that already happened in the games. So it just makes the show kind of superfluous. It does. It just makes it like, well, it was necessary to convert it to a TV show. Well, it wasn't. It was actually better as a game, you know? Here's the one thing I wanted to say all night, and I keep forgetting about it, okay? Because people keep asking me this question. Is the Fallout TV show woke? All right? I'm going to answer that question for you, all right? The Fallout TV show manages to have representation of characters in it. And it does it in a way where those characters are represented as normal people. Allow me to explain what I mean, okay? Maximus is black. It doesn't matter that he's black. There's no plot thread that he's black. He's just black. And he's a strong, well-written character, well-acted. It's never mattering what his skin color he is. You understand? Maximus has a friend in the Brotherhood, his fellow trainee, squire in training, who's trans. But the character is trans. It's not a plot point. You don't need to hear the origin story of the character of why they're trans, right? It's literally never brought up or addressed. They're just trans. It's not a big deal. The character is well written, well acted, just a part of the universe, just a normal person, and it's never really brought up as anything big. And because of that, it works. Okay? You can have this kind of representation in any kind of a show, and as long as it's not brought up to be some major focus and plot point that everyone must now spend an entire segment or big chunk of an episode focused on, right? As long as it's just something natural in the universe, just like normal people. Let's be honest. Right now, around us, we have people who are straight and gay. We have people who are male, female, and trans. We have people who are black, white, Asian, every denomination. We're all just normal, right? We don't make it some big song and fucking dance because they're different. So why do they have to kind of do this in games and in, TV shows? I mean, in Last of Us 2, of course there has to be a plot point that someone doesn't like the gender they are. So now they've been completely, excommunicated from the group, and the group want them dead. It's like, why? Why can't they just be a normal person, right? Why does the plot have to be that they're persecuted for being different? Haven't we seen that 5 zillion times? Isn't that tired at this point? In this show, they actually just have people of all representations in the show. No one cares because that's how it should be. Is it not that what we want is true acceptance? That everyone could just be themselves and be happy to be who they are, and it's not a big deal? And this show does exactly that. That's what we need more of. True representation where people are just part of normal life, and it doesn't have to be sticking out like a sore thumb, shoved up your face. Oh my God, we have to have a fucking big elaborate backstory and sob story of this and that, of how they were mistreated. Just have them be a normal person, and no one will care. We'll all accept it all. It's fine. And this show did that. So who cares who is represented or what? No, it's not even a thing of contention. It's just naturally in there. Good. Have more like that. I don't care. I don't give two shits. I've always said this. I don't care who the protagonist of a game is. Why do I care if you're male, female, somewhere in between, gay, straight, what skin color, where you come from, what language you speak? Why the fuck would I care? I don't care if you're purple with yellow polka dots on you. As long as you're a good, well-written character that has a plot arc that I like, character development, good story, good character beats, and that's all I care about. I don't care about any of that other shit. Why should anybody? Anyone who hangs on that shit is an idiot. It's just such not a thing to focus on anymore. You know what I mean? But as long as it's done right, and this show does it right, I have zero complaints whatsoever about any representation in this show because there is representation and it's done well. It's not obnoxious. So do more like that. Stop being obnoxious. And then maybe, just maybe, people won't care about the representation anymore. The problem is you got the Neil Druckmanns of the world, okay? And the Neil Druckmanns of the world, sadly, want to make those things shoved in your face. In fact, Neil Druckmann wants to sell product to you as a basis because he has that kind of representation in his games and shows. He doesn't care about the quality. He just wants to have it in there and say, buy it because of it. And that's stupid. That's dumb. He literally said during the sales of Last of Us 2, a sale of Last of Us 2 sticks it to the haters. It's like, that's not why people should buy your game, you fucking oaf. You stupid primitive ape. You should not be fucking saying shit like that to the public. It should be, buy my game because it's the best game out there. Buy my game because we put so much effort into it and it's the most accessible game ever made. Instead, buy my game because of representation. You're a jackass. And that's the person who sets the shit back. Really, someone like Druckmann sets shit back. The Fallout TV show advances things forward in the way it should be advanced. That's my take. Okay. Excuse me. I just wanted to get that out of the way because so many people ask me that question about, oh, isn't it woke? I'm not going to watch the show because it's woke. You can watch the fucking show. Trust me. You're not going to be ripping your hair out. It's not like that. Okay? Okay. So, guys, we've now been talking 2 hours about the Fallout TV show. Final thoughts on anyone? I'm going to give you my final summarized thoughts in a sec. Does anyone have any final questions? Any things they want to bring up? Any things they want to say about the show before we get ready to adjourn here tonight? Last chance for any kind of, get something off your chest. Any last second contributions if you want. Not asking for anything. You just, if you're interested. The Vault episode with the mutants was a funny episode. They messed up their nice place. Yeah, that was the ultimate trick. Because there's a whole episode based in a vault. All right. Where Lucy and Maximus get taken into a vault, and at first they think everything's good, but then they notice everyone around them is mutated in some weird way. They got body parts growing out of the wrong places. They got gills. They glow. It's like, what is going on here? Then they find a lab with all these mutations in it, and they think, oh my God, this is like a place of horrible experimentation. And I'm not going to spoil, but basically there's a big plot twist where it turns out it's nothing like what they thought it was, and it's a hilarious end, and it's really well written. Again, it's well written. It's like, what the heck, man? Do I think Lorenzo will be in the show? He's immortal, and he can make other people immortal? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know who that is. If I could have one game cameo to show up in season 2, who would it be? Like, if someone had showed up in season 2 from what? New Vegas? Well, the thing is, we know House is in it, right? Like, my fascination now is if this takes place over 20 years after the New Vegas game, what is the state of New Vegas? We left New Vegas where you had the Kings in a certain way. You had the Omertas and the White Glove Society. I think that's what they're called. And basically what you had to do in New Vegas was win over all those. Either you had to ally with them or destroy them. Right? You had to set up New Vegas for new leadership, whether it's you with Yes Man, whether it's Mr. House, whether it's the NCR, or whether it's Caesar's Legion. So what's left, right? After if Todd Howard is saying this is canon, which again, I don't think it's exactly canon, but if it's canon, right? I wonder what's going to happen in that plot. When you get back to New Vegas, what's the state of New Vegas? Is it just completely dominated by Mr. House's robots now, and 100% it's all him running everything? Are the families still there in some capacity? Is it the same families in charge? Right? What about the Von Graffs? Remember the energy weapons family? Are they still around? Will they be a part of the plot, or are they just kind of written out? Who knows? It'll be interesting to see what's in there and what's not. Do I want one particular character from New Vegas to be in it? I mean, it would be nice to see some references. I don't think we need to have direct characters showing up. Only because, once again, if you have original characters as your plot, you can do whatever you want with them, right? If you have characters in here from New Vegas, now, well, wait, what's the implications of this character now being in the show, even though they were in New Vegas? You got people who are going to be doing these giant, again, the lore masters of YouTube, who all they do is fucking lore videos on games. They're going to have fucking conspiracy theory whiteboards behind them. So what if this is there? This is, wait, I don't understand this and they get so crazy about that shit. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's a fucking game and a show. Just have fun. Whatever happened in life, you watch something to have fun. Right? I guess we lost that. Instead, everything's got to be hyper analyzed to the point of such maximum seriousness. And can I be honest? It's because YouTube made it that you monetize all that shit. Right? Before that, it was like, wow, it's the obsessive fan. But now on YouTube, you got people who literally microanalyze every game. There's people who microanalyze every pixel of every character in Elden Ring or Dark Souls, and every fucking, piece of dialogue and every document you ever found in the Fallout franchise and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? So I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Moving forward. But I don't, I'm not 100% looking forward to directly seeing characters from New Vegas be in the season 2 of this show. I guess we'll see what happens. Okay? Top Off Smoke Puffa says, in the credits, it pans through the streets of New Vegas and shows it's been destroyed with crashed vertigirds and broken Securitrons. It also shows earlier on in one of the credit sequences that New Vegas is completely destroyed. That's why one or two episodes in, people started freaking out, saying this cannot be canon because New Vegas is destroyed or whatever. And it's fucked up that they retconned New Vegas. They didn't retcon New Vegas. The credit sequence isn't necessarily 100% accurate. Okay? I don't think it is. Maybe some people are taking it that way. I don't think it is. The sand scenes reminded you of the desert section of Metro Exodus, says Clay JT. They were pretty well shot. Doesn't the Fallout show turn a blind eye to communism and blame capitalism and America for creating the apocalypse? How is that not woke? Well, did you not watch the show and see that inside the vaults, that Vault-Tec is trying to create a woke society and it's failing? You remember that basically they're like, gee, the only reason the Raiders actually overtook us is because we're so dumb. We just blatantly believe that everyone around us is good, and we didn't see the million signs of that these people were Raiders. They had scars all over their bodies. They weren't acting like vault dwellers. But we're just like, oh, well, we're just ignorant to all of it because everyone accepting everything. And because of that, they're completely overrun and murdered at the beginning of the show. And it's actually referenced later on. We're going to rehabilitate the Raiders who just brutally murdered all of us. Rather than, some people actually said, we just want to kill them because they murdered our friends. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. So basically, these are running threads in the show. And again, much like the real games, all right, there's not meant to be a 100% this is right, this is wrong attitude. It's up for you to subjectively judge. Do you think that Moldaver's group was in the right? Do you think the Brotherhood is more in the right? Do you think that Vault-Tec is actually in the right? Do you think that, you know what I'm saying? Or are all of them wrong? Maybe every single group is wrong. So maybe the communist take, the capitalist take, they're all wrong. That's for you to judge. That's the beauty of Fallout. That's actually the beauty of Fallout writing. There is not one group that is dominantly correct. They're all flawed. They're all just trying to survive in their own way. That's good writing right there. That it's not a black and white situation. You know what I mean? What's up, Game Boy? Good evening. Good to have you here at the end here. Only a few more minutes and we'll wrap it up. I'm just curious, does anyone have any final words or things to say? And then I'll give you my final thoughts on the show and we'll wrap it up for the night. Okay? No, I'm not going to even comment about building a wall around the wasteland and making the wastelanders pay for it. Maybe the followers of the apocalypse will make an appearance. I mean, they're a lesser known group, right? They're a lesser known group. They were prominent in New Vegas, I wonder. Or was it New Vegas or was it 3? It was Fallout 3, was it not? Fallout 3? It was refreshing to see a show that wasn't jam-packed full of sexual content every episode like Game of Thrones and many others, don't you think? I feel like it was balanced well. I do. I feel like it was balanced well. They didn't overdo any. I would say the one thing you can argue is the gore was very excessive, but the game also is excessive in gore. I don't really feel like it was too overdone in any direction, right? There was some romance, but it was done kind of tastefully. There was some sexual content, but it was never over the top, too much in your face. There was a lot of gore, but that's kind of par for the course for the games. Ice Darkness says, I'm surprised you didn't talk about one of the leaders in the past was Big MT. What are you talking about? One of the people at the desk of the corporations? Big MT, like Big Mountain for the expansion from Fallout 3? Is that what you're talking about? I basically remember it was Vault-Tec, Robco, like West Tech, which I think was supposed to be like an Asian corporation that I guess is referenced in the games, but I don't think it's in any of the ones I've played. And there was Big MT, so I guess I didn't catch that, and it didn't get referenced. That's a New Vegas expansion, the Big MT expansion. That's right, Big MT. It's the big crater, right? Yeah, I didn't notice that. West Tech designed the power armor. Is that true? Felix the main thinks they should explore the planet and show different places on Earth for season 2. I mean, they could go East Coast and then get to plot lines over there. But I mean, people would be pretty pissed if they just abandoned these characters that you just got to know and see. You know, the thing about this show was the plot arcs were really good. Lucy, completely different person, right? Maximus, completely different person. The Ghoul, although you can argue he's kind of the same guy, you've seen his plot arc because you realize the Ghoul in present day is completely different from who the Ghoul was in the past, right? So his plot arc had already happened. You're just seeing the outcome of that as who he is in the show today, right? So basically, I think those plot arcs are great. Do you really now want to just throw those characters away for the sake of having a season 2 somewhere else? I don't think so. I think people are going to want those characters back, right? Repcon was there too, but Robco owned them. I don't know why they were there. And then Seven Star Samurai says Robco bought Repcom right after that meeting. This is hilarious. The lore is wild. You guys are crazy about the lore of this stuff. You are. Way more than me. Like, I like the lore. I do. But I'm not one of these people who, like, has a timeline on my fucking wall of figuring all this shit out. I know there's probably 7,000 videos like that already all over the internet, right? Do I think Lucy is a Mary Sue like Rey from Star Wars? Yes, but that's the point. The point is that there's a whole generation of Vault Tech people who are like that. It wouldn't just be her. It could have been anyone from the Vault who was thrown to the surface and would have acted the same way, right? And that's kind of the interesting point of the character. In this lore, it fits. Maybe it doesn't fit. Maybe in Star Wars, it was out of place, right? Or redone, because they already done that with Luke in the first Star Wars, A New Hope, right? But in this case, this makes sense. This 100% fits what you would want in the story, because that's exactly how a Vault Dweller would act when they hit the surface and saw what the wasteland was like, right? I mean, that's how they've been raised. That's their whole life. That's all they know. All right. Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap this up. And I basically want to say thank you for a great stream here tonight. Everyone here, the first hour I was blabbing, this whole second over an hour has been great with the interaction. I want to say thanks to anyone who supported. My final thoughts on the Fallout TV show. This is how you make a video game adaptation to another form of media. You respect the source material, you expand upon it, rather than just regurgitating it in another medium like they did with The Last of Us season, which was fucking terrible compared to this, because it was the same shit. This is something unique and different and interesting, but it's in the same spirit, the same lore. It's not lore crushing like the Halo TV show that just bastardizes the fucking material for the sake of making a show. Instead, it respects all that time and love and attention that you have invested in the Fallout series up to now. You get fan service in the show that is completely missed by people who haven't played the games, but well appreciated by those of us who have, right? And because they decided to make this in the future of the plot, it's the latest thing happening in the Fallout plot line. It allows it to be meaningful and now tie into things from the past, but actually be suspenseful and interesting. If they had made this a prequel story, it would have been awful. Awful. It would have been so meaningless. I'm so happy they didn't do that. All right? And even with the lore changes they made, oh no, the ghouls are different. Oh no, now maybe the date is wrong on the NCR bombs dropping and this and that. It's still cool, right? Like, it's still great. It's still a great show. For fans of the franchise or not, you're really going to enjoy the show. But if you're a fan of the franchise, man, you got a treat ahead when you watch this show. And that ending of season 1, like I said, one of the best endings I have ever seen for the first season of a show. I am hooked. I am riveted. I cannot wait for season 2 and see how it's going to turn out in New Vegas. Whether it's completely from left field, we're not expecting, whatever it is, it's new. And that's the key. It's new and refreshing and exciting again. And let's be honest, we are not going to get anything new of Fallout for a very long time. We're going to get a little, maybe DLC content in this Fallout 4 update. But outside of that, we got our thumbs stuck up our butts, man. Because Bethesda won't make another game. This is our content. This will be our feast of Fallout for the next several years. If they make more seasons, this is all we've got. It's going to take them so long to basically do another game that this is what we've got. And I'm happy. I love this show, and I want to see it get tons of seasons. I want to see it get mainstream popular. You know what I really want to see? I want to see this show do so well that Bethesda has to make another Fallout. Or Bethesda has to contract another studio like Obsidian to make another Fallout. Because enough of their nonsense of not knowing how to make games anymore, they have become too big and too bloated, and they don't know what they're doing. If it takes them 10, 15 years to pump out a game, nobody cares anymore. They screwed up. You need to be able to make games in a reasonable amount of time when the interest is here. Why is there no Fallout content right now to tie in to this game? It doesn't even make sense. They just don't know what the hell they're doing. Todd Howard, like I said, he's a jackass at this point. He looks so dumb. They've got to do something to turn this around. This is their chance. So let's see multiple seasons of this show. Let's see it grow. Let's see it be exciting. And then let's see new games in the future that hopefully tie in with it and make it good, right? All right, guys, that is it. That is my live review of the Fallout TV show. I hope you enjoyed it. Whether you were here live or if you watch this on demand, I certainly hope that you enjoyed it equally. And I certainly hope that you guys will join me in the future for Fallout content. I'm strongly considering playing Fallout 4, or at least starting a playthrough of Fallout 4 again when this update comes out in a little over a week, especially if it has some new content. That sounds pretty exciting. We'll have to see. But in the meantime, I thank you all. Thank you so very much for watching my review of the Fallout TV show. And if you liked this, let me know. Please leave comments on these videos and let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy this or not? It's a new project for me. It's something totally different. And I want to know, content for this channel. I'm trying to get more. If you like this and you want to see more of this, I could do this for other medium. It doesn't have to be just TV shows. So leave some comments. Let me know what you think. Thank you all. See you later.